Hey, this is Erica from Ever Educating, and today I wanted to give you some suggestions of things to do at the end of a class period. So class has ended, students are gone, what do you do? If you have at least 15 minutes before your next class, which I'm assuming you do if you're teaching college courses, then these are a few things I really recommend doing before you move on to the next part of your day, whether that's in the class or not. My first tip is to make sure that you took attendance that day. I tied attendance to participation, and so it was key to make sure that I was tracking what students were in class every single day. And sometimes, a student would ask me a question before class began, we would get really immersed, class would begin, we were really immersed, and then lo and behold, it's a day later, and I realized I did not take attendance, and now I'm trying to remember exactly who wasn't there. So I really recommend at the end of a class period, just double check if that's on paper, if that's digital. Did you take attendance? Did you add any stragglers who showed up 10 minutes late and you're already teaching? Are they on the list as having attended? Do you mark it differently because they're late? I just really recommend taking just a quick minute and confirming that you took attendance that day if, again, attendance is tied in any way to your grading system. But I think it's just helpful to know who's there and who's not anyways. So I do recommend doing this after a class period ends. The next pieces of advice are all tied to things to do in your teaching journal. I've talked about teaching journals before in this channel. I'll be having a new video pretty soon as well. But basically the idea here is a journal where you take notes and you reflect on your teaching experience. So open up that journal, hopefully you have one, either in paper form or in digital form. And I recommend making sure that you kind of mark down what you did during that course period. Because I know when I taught, I would plan okay, we're gonna do these 3 things during this class period. Or this one thing, I'm gonna ask these questions about this novel. But then class begins and you get really, again, immersed, and maybe that's not what actually happens. So I recommend just taking a minute and opening up that journal to that page of the day. Okay, I had planned these 3 things. We did 1 and 2, we did not do 3. I mentioned we do 3 on Thursday, or I don't think 3 is necessary anymore, let's cross it out. So just kind of getting a measure of, hey, what actually happened on this day compared to what I thought would be happening on this day. We ended up doing this completely different activity because they were inspired to do it. Let me write that down to the list so I have that on record. Hey, this is what happened on this day. I think this is helpful for your personal records, but also in case 3 weeks from now, a student's like, hey, I was absent that day. Could you tell me what happened? And you can just go back and say, oh, we did these 3 things, right? Make sure you do this. So I think that's a good thing to do, again, before you move on to the next part of your day, because it's nice and fresh in your mind. In a similar manner, notes on student behavior. So potentially you might have a student who came up to you after class and said, hey, I'm gonna be absent 2 weeks from now because I'm going on a family vacation. Can I make up a quiz beforehand? And now okay, I need to make sure the quiz is ready to go. We decided to do it on this day. Let me make a note of that in my journal. Hey, Alicia is taking quiz 5 Monday at 3 p.m. because she'll be absent on Tuesday. So anything potentially in class, I noticed Joseph had a lot of great things to say about this particular novel and characterization. You could potentially, go to him in the future when talking about characterization in future novels. Jackie seemed to be confused about this element of the assignment. Make sure to check her work next class period, that she's on the right path, right? So just kind of student notes of observations or appointments or whatever the case may be that you took during that class period. Write it down before you forget. And then if you use an LMS and you post things for homework, for example, things to do for the next class period, I would just take a moment and double check that all that is functioning properly. So maybe you've linked 3 readings from online as well as an assignment from in the actual LMS. I would just take a minute and say, okay, click, click, click. Okay, these all still function. Or, oh no, this PDF no longer works. Oh, this website is down. Now that I know, let's change that up to make sure that any student who starts doing homework pretty immediately after a class period will be able to access everything that you think they should be able to access. So just having that check of, yes, all this still works, the instructions are still clear, I can go on with my day and do whatever I want. So you don't potentially get student emails, hey, the second link isn't working, what do I do? Or hey, this LMS assignment doesn't actually go anywhere, it says I can't access it, can you help? Just taking literally 30 seconds open it all up, make sure it functions, and then go on with your day. So these are just a few things that I did and I recommend doing to make sure that you have a smooth teaching experience. If you have your own tips for things to do after the class period, let us know in the comments. Click like if you found this helpful and subscribe if you don't want to miss out on future videos. I'll see you next time.